Hey Skeletons, this is Viking Scribe. I'd like to introduce you to my wife, Midiosa. She is going to be doing reviews with me, something that's a little bit more consistent. I haven't posted in about a year. I don't know if you've noticed. So these are going to be more weekly videos as often as we can. They're going to focus more on what the actual message of a film is. It's going to be more on the experience of the film versus like the technical aspects of the film.
Yeah, just our point of view. Like, what do we get out of it?
Yeah.
And then the differences of our point of view, because you have a more of a film background than I do. I just like watching shit. So.
Well, and you come from a background less in that like film school kind of, so it's also valuable in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a BA in sociology, and it helps to kind of want to understand people and want to understand the different perspectives from when I'm watching things. So it's not just to like have something on the screen, it's to understand the motive. Right.
I've always believed, and I think you would agree, that like film is a conversation between artists. And so as a writer, as a painter, there's different things coming from different aspects of art coming and, interacting with different parts of yourself. So I think that should be more of a focus. I mean, reviews can address all kinds of different things. So that's what we're kind of finding our own niche in that way.
Yeah. At the end of the day, this is more about like what we get out of it based on where we're coming from, not so much breaking it down to offer what everyone else is saying.
Right.
That's all.
And we are over at Universal City. We're about to go see the Jujutsu Kaisen execution movie, and later we're gonna watch Netflix's Frankenstein. And I couldn't think of a better person to watch and talk with it with. And so we wanted to talk about kind of where we were both, in terms of Guillermo del Toro films, as well as Frankenstein Frankenstein media. What's been our experience and exposure with that? So I'm gonna pass it off onto you of Guillermo del Toro directing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that just to segue before we start off, is that we are gonna see Jujutsu Kaisen now, and I think what they have in common, which is kind of like what triggered this, is that they're monster related in a sort of way.
Okay.
They're kind of that taboo of like, you shouldn't become this thing. Like you should be. It's a warning. And with Frankenstein, there is only so much I know because I haven't read the book. But from my introduction with media, it's always been a tale of like caution.
Yeah, kind of like and again, we're at Universal City, so like Jurassic Park is kind of like my version of that growing up in the 90s, of like science run amok kind of thing.
Yeah. So I just wanted to like explain that part too, of like, it's not just we're watching a movie, but that connection of monsters and what they have to teach us, and also the monster within you, kind of, like the rules you're willing to bend to get what you want out of it, and how it affects others and the world around you.
Well, yeah, and that's another thing that Frankenstein, because I haven't read the book either. I'm aware that Mary Shelley, when she wrote it, was going through had just gone through a traumatic birth or had a miscarriage, and so there was a lot of trauma in the writing of Frankenstein. But my personal exposure with Frankenstein, has come from like the Boris Karloff film from the early 1900s. And then this is kind of an out of pocket, but Van Helsing. That was really my first exposure to like.
It's such a great movie, though.
I mean, it's Hugh Jackman. It's the same guy who made The Mummy, so like that it just hits a nostalgic like.
It was fun.
Yeah,
you could tell they had fun making it. It was entertaining to watch, especially as we were watching as kids. Like, I've watched that movie so many times.
Well, the guy who played Dracula was just hamming it up so well.
Yeah,
like, he was just like so eccentric, like, the return of my ring.
Yes. Oh god, everything just flows so great with that movie.
Yeah,
and I think that's one of the things I like. Just to segue into Guillermo del Toro, is that he has a classy way of being dramatic in his own movies. My first exposure that I remember him in is Hellboy 2. He did the monsters in there, and I was like, what? who is this person? It just like blew my mind. And then there was Pan's Labyrinth. Did I say that correctly?
Say it one more time.
Pan's Labyrinth.
Hit it from and Pan's Labyrinth.
And Pan's Labyrinth.
Pan's Labyrinth.
No, okay, I'm gonna give up. Anyway, that movie.
You know what the movie is.
Yeah. He's more like the better person when it comes to enunciating things. I know Spanish, so I'm just like, my first thought is to say it in Spanish, and then I translate it in my head, and then it comes out however it comes out. So, sorry. Anyway, again, that has to do with the monsters in the story, and that's his best reputation, is being able to bring to life something you thought already, like, oh, these are what monsters look like. They can look like so many things.
Yeah, that and I think it's really the perfect kind of marriage of the two. Like, I mean, it's the one of the most classic monsters in cinema history, and I couldn't think of anyone more appropriate to handle that subject matter than Del Toro, because we both watched the Pinocchio stop motion film, and we both loved it because it was so, like, again, we like not too familiar with the source material, but familiarity with like Pinocchio, the Disney film, and we kind of get it. But there was such a kind of rawness to it, a fantastical element to it. So that's what we're kind of expecting with like the Netflix's Frankenstein, to be a little bit more into like the fantastical, because like when like Mama, Guillermo del Toro is kind of like producing kind of like influence on that. It had more of a supernatural kind of like fantasy element to it, like a mythology. He gets really into that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing I like about him, besides his creativity, is the heart that he gives his characters, because there's always this sense of like the human connection with things. How can you relate to it, so you can kind of put yourself in that person's shoes and that character's shoes, and start asking some hard questions, like, would I do that in that situation? What does this mean? How many rules should you break when it comes to like trying to get what you want? So that's the one thing that I really like about him, besides his creativity, is that human connection in the story is still very there. Yeah,
it was. I mean, I think that's what made Shape of Water so successful, was because he found that like it's about a monster. It's a romance story about a monster, and like I've talked to people who it's so like their opinions of the film are not as positive, but it still speaks to what you're talking about. It was a film about like an emotional core between man or woman and monster, and kind of the, you know, interpersonal relationship of that. Another thing I wanted to bring up, because the only other Frankenstein like media that I have exposure to is a older film with Kenneth Branagh as Dr. Frankenstein and Robert De Niro as the monster.
Oh, I've not seen that. We need to watch that.
Yeah, I've only seen a clip of it, but there was the kind of focus on that was more about how man giving birth to a creature, giving birth at all, is seen as a huge grievous sin. And in that clip I saw of Kenneth Branagh giving birth to Robert De Niro, the Frankenstein, there was a lot. It had like amniotic fluid. It was very similar to a pregnancy, and it just clicked for me. I was like, that. I mean, I'm not expecting that from the Netflix version, but that's like another angle you can go in of like, this is an unnatural process.
You're breaking a rule, but for them to be willing to kind of go raw with it, with this fluids and things like that, I'm just like, even as a woman, I'm like, I don't know if I want to watch it anymore.
Birth is a gross process. Like, don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we covered it. You know, we'll talk more about like Guillermo del Toro's Netflix Frankenstein after, but you know, this was more of a touching base and kind of like what are we going to come away with this version of Frankenstein, giving you guys a little bit more of a background on us, so you can kind of understand where we're coming from during the actual review and critique of it. So yeah. What up, skeletons? This is Viking Scribe, and this is our part 2 of the What's the Message review, where we talk about Guillermo del Toro's Netflix's Frankenstein. Um, and it's basically just kind of going to go over about what we liked, what we didn't think worked, what our experiences were. You guys already got kind of a background of what our exposure to Frankenstein has been. And I think I'll start off by saying that the director, Guillermo del Toro, I can't think of any other director working right now in the modern era that would do the material of Frankenstein justice. Maybe Sam Raimi.
He would have more fun with it.
Yeah, it would be a lot more like cinematography wise, like very, very like experimental.
Yeah, you have more like silly moments, like just because.
Mm-hmm.
But Guillermo del Toro gives it more of a. He dives into the fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
and he dives into like the questions people have about life and like what that means. What does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, I think he's just very classy with the way how he presents things.
Yeah, and I will also say that like it wasn't my favorite Del Toro film. I think either Devil's Backbone or Shape of Water still are up there for me. What's your favorite? Like,
yeah, same here. It wasn't my favorite,
Mm-hmm.
but Pan's Labyrinth.
Mm-hmm.
I said it right this time.
Mm-hmm.
I was practicing.
Mm.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, that one's always gonna be number one for me. If not Hellboy 2, but. This one, I think I learned to appreciate it more once we watched that second part where it was like the making of.
Yeah, the behind the scenes stuff that's on Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely something I could see myself rewatching in the future at some point.
Yeah, I think like kind of seeing kind of the craftsmanship, which I think we did the same thing for the Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Seeing all the stop motion, seeing
Pinocchio was really good.
Yeah, seeing like the artistry and the craft and the craft behind just the like that was something we like he had never done a stop motion film like that.
Right. It should have been in our list just now.
Right. I mean like later. But I mean talking about the behind the scenes stuff, it really highlighted like the production design, the costumes, how each element of it was like there was no kind of accidental like whatever quality to it. Everything had a very intentional aspect to it.
Yeah, so he was intentional with the costumes, with the architecture. He was intentional even to a point though, which I really liked. He gave room for the set to speak to him, which I was just like, I've never heard a director speak that way. He's almost kind of like a romantic. I think it's his Mexican side.
Yeah, I could probably, yeah, that's definitely like to his like cultural background, but also like his experience, because like he said at the beginning of the behind the scenes thing of like there's going to be problems on set. Like that's just bound to happen. I've been on enough productions to know like there's stuff you can't even really anticipate. So you just kind of have to work around that aspect. And he seemed to kind of lean into it. Like if this was the direction that the movie's gonna like kind of follow the soul and the spirit of the film, as it's being made. So
yeah, that's one of the things I liked about like the more I learn about his work and how he works is that he leans on other people and he lets I think what I like the most is the learning that he himself has one vision for how he wants the movie to be played out. And then he asks, like, for example, the art department, like, give me your vision. What do you think it's going to look like? And then they'll meet somewhere in the middle and then start, like, okay, how are we going to actually make that come to life?
Yeah, he has a lot of the departments kind of, like, talking to each other. Like, I think he said, like, the production and the costumes, because the costumes are in the foreground of the shot, and then the backgrounds are like everything else, the world of it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that you kind of forget as you watch a film in general is how there's so many different pieces that kind of come together to give you this like basically moving work of art as you're watching it, and that's something that I like about him because he does it in such a way he gives you messages as you're watching the film. Like,
Yes.
it's not a type of film that you can have your phone out and just listen to it. It's not going to cater to that. You have to watch it. If not, you're going to miss something. It's just inevitable.
Yeah.
And it's poetic the way he puts it together, honestly.
Yeah, and I think the way he like also chooses his actors too to like bring, because like they were also in unison with like the costumes. Oscar Isaac in that behind the scenes part said like he had to kind of like fit that role as he was putting on the different costumes. Of here's Victor Frankenstein before he had he had met or
The investor,
yeah,
the uncle.
the uncle. I forget, can't remember his name right now. Christoph Waltz, the Christoph Waltz character. And then this is what he's like after the fact. Same thing with Mia Goth's character of like she's really into insects, so she has her costumes have to kind of reflect like beetles, and like there's like different like imageries that they're like weaving into the costumes, which like that was really like for me as writer, kind of creative, and just like kind of seeing like the shot, it doesn't really necessarily like jump out at me. Costumes, like production design does, but like costumes is one of those things that I kind of neglect, and it was really cool to see that highlighted and being interwoven with the characters. So I know we're kind of talking more about the behind the scenes stuff in the actual film.
I mean, it helped us appreciate it more because
Yeah.
the way we're kind of used to again getting catered to with film, and things kind of move really fast. Things are kind of like transparent. There's not a romance behind it. The messaging that, for example, in The Sixth Sense, with like certain elements being red, and throughout The Sixth Sense with like the doorknob, and then like that one lady in red that poisoned the daughter, that's not used enough in film anymore. As far as like I've grown up with it, so
it's rare, and it was shown that he deliberately chose to have the Arctic kind of represent white being death.
yeah,
You know that, and like the red being like, at least to us when we were watching it, we both called out like, oh, she's wearing a red rosary, something, you know, death is close by kind of thing. Yeah.
And that's something that I mean, I noticed that from the beginning, where like, okay, there's very clear colors here. Like the mom was wearing like this red scarlet.
It
red
was like
dress.
like a paint like a painting, like when she was on those steps. I was like, someone like catch those like parts of her dress, because they're just like flying over into the wind.
So dramatic. I was like, wow. And then with the dad, he was very like black and white, and it was just kind of like dark colors, and the rest of the home was like white and black, and it just exemplified a mood. And those subtle messages throughout the film, and also loud for when it came to Mia Goth's costume.
Yeah.
It's not something that's used, so it doesn't, you're not really prepared for that if it's not something that he's done before. Like Pinocchio beforehand was like you said, it was like what, animatronics it's called?
Stop motion.
Stop motion.
Yeah.
Completely different type of film.
Yeah.
And then it's like he keeps taking risks by doing completely different types of film, and with a whole new set of people too. He's very intentional about the story he wants to take on and how he wants to take it on. The only thing that's repetitive about him is the fantasy part of it, like the romanticized thing. So when we first watched it, I was a little bored, I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
But the more I watched it, the more I started actually appreciating the subtlety, the colors, the architecture of Victor's apartment, how everything was crowded, and then he had like pieces of people around him. And then when they got to the big laboratory area, the water tower, I was like, wow, this is like really dramatic, but like this is the only building here, so it forces you to focus.
Yeah.
So it's kind of odd. I found myself kind of like meh, and the next thing you know, I'm like noticing a lot.
Yeah, they did a really good job of like constructing the sets in such a way that like it kind of draws your eye to like certain focal points. Like even in his his office or in his apartment, there was that guy who was bent over and had his
spine open,
his spine exposed, his like you know layers of his flesh kind of pulled off.
Yeah, his back muscle was exposed.
And there was a lot of that. I mean, Gothic, now that I'm really talking about it now, Gothic imagery and architecture really does reflect the human body. And that's something I actually learned from, funnily enough, the Dead Space.
Oh,
Dead Space.
The video game?
Yes, the video game.
If you look at the game right now, you might go, where'd you get, where's Gothic, right? But what it did was it started with this rule set.
A lot of the world stuff and the forms, you'll see a lot of repeating ribs and open supports and things that sort of evoke human body structure.
And that's why Isaac there's a lot of ribbing on Isaac, and there is the ribbing on the ship.
Because the set, the ship, has a lot of Gothic architecture in it.
Oh.
Even the player character's ribs are reflective of like the human body.
Yeah,
you know, it's all
and then that one piece in the back is like a spine, the suit that he wears.
Yes.
It's like a blue light.
Yeah, and they reference that in like the creating of Dead Space. Like we wanted to focus on more like Gothic architecture, so it makes sense that like Frankenstein and the architecture and like the subject matter all kind of coalesce together.
It kind of gives you that bareness to it. Like it's raw in a sense of like there's nothing to hide behind.
Right, and I think that complements the story because Frankenstein the monster has nothing. Has nothing to hide. He's a fresh creation, a fresh life. And I mean, what were your thoughts on this version of Frankenstein versus like the Boris Karloff, like the bolts in the neck, or even like the one from Van Helsing we were talking about, where
That's the one that was really in my head throughout the whole thing, because that to me I love Van Helsing. So in the Van Helsing version, he's big, he's tall, he's kind of
like a Hulk, a little Hulk.
You can see the electrical lights in him and stuff, and he has the coat, but there's still that gentle part of him. But Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, he was soft from the beginning. And then the makeup, oh my God, the makeup. It was done in such a way where like you could see him slowly come to life in a way where like the hair growing also, the makeup, the skin tone changing from like all being white to like some parts of it being like skin tone color, like a light beige, and then the middle part staying blue. It really, again, like it showed this intentional care of like, I want you to see this person change throughout their story. And I loved the subtlety behind him. Like, granted, it was for at least for Victor frustrating to like see him not really speak much except for saying his name.
Right.
But he never gave him the benefit of the doubt that if you were to be reborn as a full adult, you're not going to have the background of an education, the background of being like nurtured by a parent, like he was with
life
his mom.
Experiences, failures, successes,
a personality.
Right.
So I get his impatience because he worked on it like who knows how long, and the majority of his life he's been thinking about this thing.
Yeah, it was his life's work since he was a child.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I get the impatience, but for him, I understood when Mia Goth came in and was like treating him with more gentleness, because that tenderness, it's childlike, it's innocence, it's you kind of saw him grow up in front of you into becoming the man that he was at the very end. So I didn't mind him at all. It was more of like some things were not surprising, like his strength was a little surprising, but not because again, I'm in my head I'm thinking Van Helsing. Like strong, but he doesn't appear to be right off the back. His size makes him look intimidating.
Like I think I mentioned this to you like during the film. Like he kind of reminded me of a Prometheus like engineer. Like he was so tall and so pale and white. That like that's what the design kind of reflected to me as. But I thought he I thought he was a little too pretty. I thought like Shape of Water design wise had a better kind of like balance of like, what is this thing? It's so alien looking, but like it still has that like human kind of quality to it, despite not
Yeah.
not being human. So I thought like Shape of Water kind of married those a little bit better. But you're absolutely right. Like the more warmness that was kind of given to him and kindness, the fuller, more like the tones you saw, like some, and but even then, like you were mentioning, like, which I loved. There were different parts of his body that were still not fully, like there were still some parts of his face that were blue, and there like, but there were other
Yeah.
parts of his face that were like coming more into like where the blood was circulating.
With this one, I felt like it was easier to understand he's pieces of other people,
Hmm.
because you literally saw him be put together.
Hmm.
And then to also still see the stitching, like not the actual like stitch itself, but like the lines of him everywhere.
Hmm.
It kind of like it forces you to remind yourself this is a new man.
It kind of reminded me of the Vitruvian Man, that like very famous, like, I think it was Da Vinci.
Oh, the one with
Yeah, where
the
he
he's
had
like
his arm,
standing
like the
up.
perfect man kind of,
Mm, the
image. Yeah, the
design.
design, the perfect man design. That's
Mm.
what it really reminded me of.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I didn't mind this Frankenstein. It kind of it again, it made me appreciate the slow quality of like the arc of the character.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So one thing that I keep kind of talking about, and we talked about it a little bit earlier,
mm,
the gore. I thought in the part where, and we'll if I can find a clip of it, I'll put it up. Where the wolves attack the old man, seemed to me didn't like, I'm no stranger to gore. My book that I spent a year writing while taking a break from YouTube, that's full of gore. But at the same time, it's gore has to serve a purpose. But the way that the Frankenstein movie builds up like gore and like kind of, it's more like a medical textbook. You're not really seeing like things being ripped apart for no reason. You're seeing like the exposure of the muscles and the tendons and the nervous system. You're seeing a lot of different aspects the to the human body. And so when the wolves attack, and when the wolves attack the old man and unfortunately kill him, it gets very violent all of a sudden. And I thought that was a little jarring because it seemed to be like he was throwing them around, he was roaring, he was a monster. He was like, that was the most monster I'd probably seen him outside of the first like 5-10 minutes of the film where he's like literally throwing people across.
yeah,
Like he was like a Wolverine. It's at some point he was like a Wolverine and Sabretooth like mixed together.
yeah.
And so, but the gore when he's like, when the dogs are like are attacking him and he's like scalping the wolves, like I thought the pressuring of like, because like,
Crushing the lungs,
yeah,
the
well, yeah, or
hearts.
cracking the, like, destroying the back, like that makes sense to me as of like what you were saying earlier when we were talking about it, like
Yeah.
he doesn't know his strength, like that makes sense to me. But like the act of grabbing a dog and like scalping it without like stopping before you do the full motion, didn't really sit well with me. It seemed a little unnecessary to me. I mean, they were all CG dogs, so the whole thing looked off. Apparently, they used real wolves that we saw
Certain
in the behind the
scenes.
scenes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
certain scenes there are definitely real wolves, but not obviously the hardest parts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that like, I'm not saying use real wolves to to do that, but some of the gore seemed a little over the top when it didn't necessarily need to be.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when it came to the violence, it worked with the story, honestly, because like the more I watched it, the more I expected to become dramatic, because
Mhm.
it kind of reminded me like, oh right, this is the way he likes to tell stories, and
It was the goriest I think a Guillermo del Toro film has been.
I believe so,
Yeah,
yeah.
not other than like the Pan's Labyrinth, like he cut his mouth, right? Like,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean that's
Yeah,
the
that one's a little bit more eerie, in my
Mhm.
opinion, than gory.
Okay.
So, but for this one, there was like because you know how there's a part 1 and a part 2.
Yeah,
and
man.
For me, the violence grew from part 1 to part 2, and it kind of like goes from like the whipping to Victor hitting him with like the metal staff to him defending himself from the people that are coming in to shoot him. He's hiding, but then they come back and he has to like really defend himself even harder.
Tore out a guy's jaw.
That sense of it like growing to a point that you're kind of like taken aback by it. It helps you, in my opinion, it helped me anyway, accept him as him seeing himself as like, well, if you think of me as a monster, let me show you what a monster can do. So to me, that's kind of like what that came from, like how I saw that, especially towards the end, once it was kind of like a tag game between him and Victor. Like, like, let's see if you can kill me. If not, I'm gonna try and like mess with you. And it was just kind of like that play on like, at this point, there's no holding back. Why am I going to hold back if you're not going to hold back? So I didn't mind it. To me, it explained we are at a different level in the story now.
Okay. Yeah. I don't necessarily agree that like the violence would like, I think the violence and the gore was being built up in a different direction, and it didn't reflect, because I think the filmette was actually reflecting the kindness and the softness and the gentle qualities. Like he was the spirit of the forest.
Two things can be true at the same time.
That's yeah. I mean that is true.
Hey.
Two things can be true at the same time.
You said I'm right.
But I don't necessarily agree with the message that like, well, if you think of me as a monster, I'm going to be. It was that I think that scene could have used a little bit more breathing room, because as we pointed out as I pointed out when I was watching it, I'd be when he's holding the old man in his arms, I'd be like, it'd be a real shame if the other people that left come back at this exact time.
That was very predictable.
Not that I would say it was rushed, but like had there been like a scene in between of him like mourning the old man, of like experiencing the loss of a life of someone that you really cared about, maybe that would have like softened the blow of the violence and the gore a little bit, because it seemed like it was just back to back of wolf jaw.
Yeah, I didn't mind it so much because like, that's part of life sometimes. Like when the worst things happen, it seems that other things kind of happen on top of each other, and
kind of bad luck
in a
situation,
like a lack of compassion from life. Honestly,
okay.
Like it feels like life is attacking you, and that's kind of like how I saw the rush of when Christopher Waltz's character died, when he just like was asking also for this favor while the storm is happening, and then he dies in the middle of the storm.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
Still trying to get this like monster to come back alive. It's like, okay, I gotta go up here, and he's by himself doing this.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a lot of like drama that was like kind of like all happening at once. Yeah.
But that type of drama was drama that was for me easy to follow, because life is like that, where there's things kind of thrown at you one on top of the other. Like you can be driving to go to the grocery store, and sure, that sounds mundane, but like if you get 3 or 4 people cutting you off in 3 different ways,
or into a car accident,
yeah. Or like you get into the parking lot and then you like ding someone's car, or someone dings your car, like it can easily add up to become this like horrible experience, and you're just like, I made it.
Somehow I survived.
All right, Costco, here we go. You gotta face that. So I didn't mind it. To me, the pacing made it exciting.
Okay, yeah, because you said, because I really liked the first half of the movie. You necessarily were not like too into that.
I liked the first half towards the end of it.
I see. Okay.
Once Mia Goth's character came in, because she brought in like color.
Came into like her first appearance, or interacting with the monster.
So and when she came in her first appearance.
Okay.
Because like as we were speaking earlier, there's tone set by color,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something I immediately noticed.
Okay.
Like I love color, I love the play with it, and it was so easy to understand. She was seen as this new life
Mm-hmm.
in the room,
Mm-hmm.
new life in the lives of these men,
Mm-hmm.
William, the uncle, Victor, even the monster. Like everyone saw her as like this light.
Yeah, without it being too like overbearing or like she would like had she become the sole focus of the film, it would
It
have
would have been,
detracted. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
thankfully he didn't lean on too much in the religious aspect, because I
Mm.
was nervous that it was going to become like this Virgin Mary kind of like depiction
Okay.
of like this pure innocent, like I don't know. Sometimes it seems like women are kind of put in this like pedestal,
Mm-hmm.
and of like, oh, you can't let them fall from grace, or oh my God, I can't believe I killed them.
No,
or
she was calling Victor out on his shit.
yeah,
like
and like right off the bat, that was refreshing,
Yeah.
because like he had followed her like a creeper at one point,
Yeah.
and she like pretended to be like, I'm gonna confess to the father, and like I know he's there.
Yeah,
And she
that
totally
was really
played with
good.
him.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, because like you fell in love with him. Like, no, I hate him. Oh my God. That was one of my favorite scenes. Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
Because it had so much heart. It had such a realistic, like, human connection. And it goes back to what we said earlier. I was looking for moments in this film where you remember the human part of being alive,
Mm-hmm.
and the human part of what it feels like to die.
Mm-hmm.
And the rule breaking that you do throughout that process. Because, like, Victor broke some rules by going after his brother's fiance right there.
So that's what you took away from it.
Say that again. What do you mean?
Well, that's the message that you kind of received from the film. That you were mentioning that was your like his overexertion of trying to conquer different, not only death but like of marriage and life, and was that kind of, I don't want to
I
speak, I don't
mean,
want to speak for you.
The more you say it, the clearer it gets. So thank you for kind of like helping me find my way through that.
Yeah.
But my message, the message that I received from the film was that everybody's on their own path, and you have to decide which rules to break and which rules not to.
Mm.
And it's all based on how much you want to stick to your morals and how much you want to stick to what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mia Goth's character, she wanted a life where she could be with Victor, or she could like have a, I guess, more fun, more choice.
Mm-hmm.
But the last thing she wanted to be with is someone that played God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they had a good time, but she also didn't want to be just like moved around from one person to the next just because she's a woman.
Right.
And coming from the Covenant, I can only imagine what that lifestyle was like compared to like being out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was her background, that she had like this connection and relationship with God beforehand. So I think all of them kind of showed me you need to be willing to choose wisely what you do next.
Mm-hmm. And not and again, like kind of adding to it, not letting your ambitions blind you to the people around you, because I think that was
Yeah.
that was something that, like, even with the ship captain, that was kind of bookending the story, is not to let your ambitions get the better of you,
Right.
kind of thing.
Because like when you think of your, like, when your ego gets so big that you're like, I'm gonna do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want, you lose a sense of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You lose that part of you that's human, that can connect with others. You lose that sense of, well, what even gave you that drive, that sense to dream, that sense to like, well, I want to try this new thing. Let's see how it goes. And you forget you didn't get there by yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that was another, like, Victor was his ideas were being mocked and belittled,
Yeah.
like, to begin with, and it may have been a line of like how he got to that kind of presentation, but it wasn't until Christoph Waltz I just blanking on the character's name. It wasn't until it was to get something out of it, but it was the finance, it was the belief that you can conquer death. So and it was also his brother William who helped him kind of put all this stuff together. So yeah, it is exactly what you're saying.
Thank you.
So for me, what I kind of took away from Del Toro's Frankenstein was something that was mentioned, something that I already kind of like thought about while I was watching it, but the kind of behind the scenes kind of confirmed it, as far as what the kind of one of the messages and one of the intentions of the film is about fathers and their sons and disappointment. And how do you overcome that? So the start of the film, I really liked, where it was Victor's childhood, because like I had never seen that before. And there's this great scene where the dad from Game of Thrones, I mentioned to you, like whenever you need a prick of a dad, old and British, you call that guy.
Right. Some sophistication.
And he's like. He's standing over his son, asking for all these different medical terms, and the moment Victor doesn't know, he belittles him and says, "Well, if you have a second to look it up, the person's already dead." So already Victor has been the recipient of disappointment as well as physical abuse with the whip to his face. And that was something that like I recognized as like this is probably going to maybe spill over onto the monster while I was watching it, and that's exactly what happened. So when the monster was unable to speak more than Victor's name, Victor did in turn hit him and kind of reject what his creation, what his life creation was. When Mia Goth chose the monster over Victor, and Victor responded in a very jealous way, because like it didn't necessarily reflect on his father. It was that the pain of rejection that Victor had felt from his father, kind of like building from, kind of coming from another character he really wanted. And she had that line of, just because you believe something doesn't make it true, and that was kind of the building jealousy that he had towards his monster and his creation. So I'm glad it wasn't just like anger and disappointment. It was also jealousy and kind of like, why did you reject me but accept that thing, that creature? He's not even a man. He can barely speak. There was a lot of kind of emotions kind of built up into the motivations of that.
Yeah. He was a complicated person.
Very, very complicated, and not someone that you can kind of nail down like easily as like a character.
Right.
And then what I liked about how the movie ended was that the generational trauma ends with the dad saying, "I'm sorry." Victor passed away at the end of the film. Spoilers. Spoilers.
Spoil the whole movie.
Right. This is gonna be like we're gonna put spoilers in just so people know. But yeah, the trauma ends when the father recognizes, like, I did do you wrong. I did not do what I should have done, what that old man did, which was take time and do what Mia Goth did and give him kindness, and then for the monster to forgive him.
Yeah.
That's how you end that generational trauma and hatred and resentment and bitterness, from one to the other. And Del Toro talked about, like, there was a line that takes 30 years to to form between, like, his father, him, and his children. So there was a lot kind of happening underneath
the surface.
A lot of subtext in that. So that's what I got from it. A lot of father, because it's a theme in my book as well. Not to toot my own horn.
You're like, hey.
I recognize that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we got from Netflix. Guillermo del Toro's Netflix's Frankenstein. Hopefully you got something out of it. Please let us know in the comments. And let us know if we're off base, if we're completely just crazy about what what we said.
I mean, that's kind of like naturally.
That's a given.
Yeah, exactly. It's a given. If you'd like to see more, please let us know by liking and subscribing. Thanks for your time. Have a good one.